Hey everybody, this is Christopher Brower here with Daily Motor, and today we're driving the 2021 Ford Mustang Mach E GT Performance. Now we have filmed a couple of Mach E's here on Daily Motor, but this is the first GT Performance that we've been able to get our hands on. I've been driving it for a couple days now, and I'm excited to share some of my long-term impressions because I actually drove this car in December when it was launched in San Francisco, California. So I was able to get some initial impressions. But now that I've driven cars like the Kia EV6, the BMW i4, the Volvo XC40 Recharge, and so on, I feel like I'm able to give some more accurate impressions on this Mach E and sort of compare it to some of these new EVs and where it fits in the market today. Something I want to get out of the way right away is, well, what makes this a performance? Well, you get 20-inch wheels with this unique sort of crisscrossy design here. And you get some summer tires. I believe they are Pirelli P0s. So you get sticky tires, bigger, more unique wheels. You get a slightly different front fascia here with this little splitter thing, or whatever you want to call it. You also get a little bit more torque. So this has 480 horsepower, which is the same as just a normal Mach E GT. But on the normal GT non-performance car, you only get 600 foot-pounds of torque. And on the performance, they up that to 634 foot-pounds of torque. So a little bit more torque there. And other than that, it's not too different. There are a couple differences on the interior, and we'll get to those in just a second. EPA range on this car is 270 miles. Our friends over at Car and Driver tested the highway range to be 220 miles. Now let's go ahead and do a quick walk around of this Mach E GT. We won't spend a ton of time on just normal Mach E specific things because I think at this point we all are very familiar with the Mach E. So we'll try and focus on things unique to the GT and GT Performance, which right off the bat you can see instead of a pony right here on the back, you get a GT badge. Take a look in the back here, which is just the same as the normal Mach E, and this has fallen down. Oh dear. Let's put that back up there. Okay. The wind is doing all sorts of things today. Pretty good amount of room here in the back. No different than just the normal Mach E. Though one thing I do like to show is the little Mustang that you get on your rear cargo area light. Okay, let's go ahead and shut this, and we'll hop in the back seat, which you open with a button. I'm so excited to see when those don't work in like 20 years from now. How are you going to get into the back seat of your Mustang Mach E? Nobody knows. So a little bit of a sneak peek to another difference with the GT Performance, these front seats, and we'll take a closer look once we step up front there. But the back seat is mostly unchanged. You've got slightly unique upholstery here. It's very interesting material. It's almost like alcantara, but I assume it's friendly to polar bears, so it's probably made out of plastic of some sort. Little armrest here. And honestly, even with these unique front seats, I still have plenty of room in the back seat of this Mach E. Full glass roof here, and I have plenty of headroom as well. Take a quick peek up front here before we step up there, just for a back seat view here. All right, let's go ahead and step up front. Not really too much in this back seat, and especially not too much unique to the GT. So go ahead and hop up front. These door handles here are fully electronic. It's interesting, in the back you just get a button here and you use the actual door to open it. But in the front you actually get a little pull, which makes it more convenient. So right off the bat, we have more of this alcantara material here on the door panel. We also have GT here on our little kick guard door sill. And here's the biggest difference in the interior for the GT Performance. It's these seats. You've got little Ford Performance branding here on the side, and you've got these really, really aggressive shoulder bolsters up at the top and pretty aggressive side bolsters as well. I think they're pretty cool. They're pretty unique looking seats. You don't really have anything else like this on the market design-wise, so it's cool to see a little bit of a unique touch to this GT Performance. Otherwise, though, on the sides, pretty cheap looking, scratchy, cheap plastic panel here and controls. We do have lumbar adjustment there, so that's nice to see. But otherwise, nothing too special down below the seats there. You've got Bang & Olufsen sound system, which I believe Charlie has already tested, so I will leave a link down in the description to that as well. But really nice quality speaker covers there. And since this is an EV, I went ahead and left it running for the beginning of the review so I could be nice and air conditioned when I stepped in. It is 81 degrees outside today. It's a little bit hot and humid, but that's the nice thing about EVs is you can just let them sort of precondition for you and get nice and cool so you're comfortable as soon as you step in. We've got a GT badge pressed into our armrest here in the middle. This lifts up and you actually have a little storage compartment there that I'm using for the key right now. Little Mustang badge on the key that matches this horizontal striped Mustang there on the steering wheel. Go ahead and shut that. White stitching throughout on the armrest, shifter surround, seats, door panels, dash everywhere. And speaking of the dash, we do have a slightly unique touch here. We have some alcantara material that runs across, looks pretty nice, but the same upper dash and speaker grills that you get on just the normal Mach E, which I really, really like the look of. The interior overall on this Mach E, whether it be the GT Performance, Space Mach E, whatever, in my opinion, is one of the nicest interiors we've ever seen from Ford, and that stays true here in this GT Performance. I know I mentioned the sort of cheap-looking seat side things here, and there are a couple of things in here that are cheap, but you have to remember, it's still a Ford. It's not a Mercedes or a Genesis or something that's going to be really over-the-top interior-wise, and I think for what they could do, for this price point, I don't think that it's too bad of a job. Sunglasses holder, because it's an American car, and I guess all Americans like to keep their sunglasses up here, so if that is your thing, if you're a sunglasses enthusiast, Ford's got you covered. Otherwise, in the infotainment, not too much different for the GT. The only thing that you get is something called Unbridled Extend Mode, which it looks like we can actually activate right now. So what Unbridled Extend Mode is, it's like a Sport Plus mode. It's like an overboost. Like if you were to be in a Veloster or an Elantra N and you click the N Grin shift button, it's like an overboost Sport Plus sort of thing. So we can try that out a bit later on. But for right now, we will leave it off. 3 different drive modes: Whisper, Engage, and Unbridled. Sort of just like Comfort, Normal, and Sport mode. They just like to use some unique verbiage to describe their drive modes. Kind of like Lincoln. This is a very Lincoln-y thing for them to be doing. Parking cameras here, as you can see, front and rear, and sides. Overall, not a huge fan of this infotainment. It's kind of laggy when you start it up in the morning and you want to just kind of get all your stuff ready before you're going to work and things. It lags and it's kind of annoying to operate. However, the Apple CarPlay fits in nicely. It's a nice big integration here right in the middle. So I think that looks nice. And climate controls stay in a permanent location down here. So that makes it kind of okay to me. If you want to get to the main climate control menu, you just click up here and you can direct where you want the air to go. Animation similar to Tesla, actually. So that's kind of neat. I am running the AC right now. As I stated earlier, it is pretty hot. Can swipe that down just like a smartphone, which is cool. Why is my heated seat on? Turn that off. Heated seat and heated steering wheel controls down here, as well as a little bit of a novelty temperature slider here. As you can see, it goes from blue to red and purple in between. So kind of neat. You've also got a sketch pad for whatever reason that is. See how good I can make the Daily Motor logo. Is it bad that I actually don't even really know what it looks like? I think it's like that. Charlie, if you're watching, I apologize. All right, we're back to the home screen now. We're going to leave it on that until we're switching drive modes in just a little bit. But for now, with this brief interior tour over, let's go ahead and take this Mach E GT Performance out on the Daily Motor test route and see what it's like to drive. Dial shifter down here, which I particularly don't like because some dial shifters are okay. They're metal, they snap into place really nicely, and they feel good. But look how wobbly this is. I feel like I could just rip it off. And it spins continuously. There's no locking point. So not the biggest fan of that. Sometimes it's hard to actually gauge where you are in the shift pattern. A little bit of a bong, bong, bong noise when you're in reverse. You can hear that. But pretty good quality reverse and 360 cameras here. Into drive. And we're starting out today in engage mode, just the normal setting for this Mach E. I will say, even in engage mode, in what should be normal mode, the steering is pretty heavy at low speeds, which isn't necessarily ideal. It does lighten up slightly in whisper mode, but when you're in whisper, you get a weird animation here on the cluster that can sometimes be distracting. I know that might be a little bit dramatic to say, but it's almost like, you know, like when you get floaters in your eyes. Maybe that's just me talking because I have an astigmatism. I might be the only one that can relate to that. But if you have like floaters in your eyes, it's kind of what this animation on the cluster looks like. So I've been driving in engage because then the cluster doesn't move at me or anything. We do have an interesting propulsion sound on this Mach E GT, and I noticed this halfway through my drive in San Francisco late last year. It's almost like they're trying to imitate the 5-liter V8 sound from just the normal Mustang sports car, but they've taken it and they've sort of like mixed it with like a light bulb coming on, like a view, but it also sounds like a V8. So tell me what you think. It gets a little bit louder in unbridled mode, but listen to it in engage here. It kind of sounds like a Coyote V8 at like 5,000 RPM, mixed with a light bulb, if that makes sense. Let's go ahead and go right into unbridled mode. Now this is the sports driving mode. It sharpens up your throttle response and makes it feel more electric, because of course electric cars are known for having an instant throttle response, and in unbridled mode you do get that. Sometimes we have a little bit of traction issue, and the sunshade or whatever, the privacy thing fell off the back again, so that's nice. It couldn't handle all 634 foot-pounds of torque. Now, in unbridled mode, and in fact in any mode, you do sometimes get some wheel spin. It actually hooked up there a little bit. Sometimes the front wheels spin, which is not very Mustang-y of this crossover, but anyways, otherwise, it is pretty quick. You can hear that propulsion sound a little bit better there. It's pretty quick, but what I don't quite understand is, in this particular car, the power is very inconsistent. Sometimes you can floor it and it feels like a Ford Focus, like you're not getting any power at all. And then you floor it and you actually feel like you're in a 480 horsepower electric crossover, and it does feel quite quick, but I kind of am, it feels quite heavy around corners too. So right now it doesn't feel all that quick. I don't know, I think it might be a traction control thing, like the traction control in the car's brain limiting the amount of power that you have. It just doesn't make too much sense to me, because we were just driving the BMW i4 M50, which, if you're unfamiliar, is the new electric car from BMW, and that car never did that. It was full power all the time, whenever you wanted it, absolutely instantaneous. And I'm not really getting that from this Mach E GT, and it's almost like the whole point, the whole thing that makes electric cars fun is that instantaneous torque and power, and you do get it sometimes, don't get me wrong here, but there are times where you get on the gas and you're like, come on, where is it? Where is it? When I say get on the gas, I mean step on the pedal to the right of the brake. So, ooh, there you go. There's a good one. That was 60 pretty quick. All right, let's go ahead and do a little bit of a launch. See how fast this Mach E decides it's going to get off the line at this very moment. Okay, well, conditions are not met for unbridled extend, so we'll just go into normal unbridled mode and just hit it. So this thing is very quick to 60 miles an hour. Ford claims like 3.5 seconds, and I would almost believe that. It feels more like a 4-second 0 to 60 to me. But what's a little bit frustrating is, and I'm sure you saw it, it really peters out and like falls on its face right after 60 miles per hour. So anything over 60, like going 60 to 80 or 80 to 100, it just has no power. You can literally feel it. You can feel it stop pulling once it hits that speed. So also kind of an interesting thing there. Steering feel is super heavy in unbridled mode, as it is in most cars that have a sport mode. I'll stay in unbridled here for the entrance ramp. I do like the cluster design in unbridled mode. These little orange stripes kind of look like electricity going across. You can definitely feel the weight of this SUV through corners. 55 miles an hour though. Coming up on a semi truck. Spax semi. Wait for him to go and then we will punch it. He's dripping some sort of fluid on me. Right, okay, so decent performance, honestly, around that entrance ramp. It's very tight, and one thing I forgot to mention earlier is on the GT Performance, you do get Magneride Suspension, so that's a plus also. It leaves for some nice adjustability through your drive modes for your suspension, and really helps this thing handle around corners. It can be a little bit bouncy at times, but that is kind of the case with any high-performance SUV. I gotta take my opportunity now while we're actually on the highway to show off Blue Cruise, which is Ford's self-driving sort of thing that you get here. Adaptive cruise with steering assist, hands-free as they call it. What do they call it in Lincoln's? Active Glide or something. Same thing here in this Mach E, it's just called Blue Cruise. One thing that's interesting though about Blue Cruise is this little panel here, which you guys can see probably right now flashing pink-purple lights. That is a little radar thing that watches your eyes to make sure that you're paying attention to the road. Because unlike a Hyundai or something similar like that that has steering assist that relies on your touch and movement of the steering wheel, this car relies on you actually keeping your eyes on the road. So I suppose you could really be doing anything. As long as you're looking at the road, the car will continue to steer for you. So interesting take on that. But it works pretty well. We tried it out in San Francisco late last year on that event, and you know, I was decently impressed. It was sometimes making some last minute decisions that were a little bit scary, but this car feels like it's a little bit more dialed in. They've been able to do some more refining and tuning to this Blue Cruise system, so that is a good thing. So let's go ahead and talk about price. The normal Mustang Mach E GT starts around $62,000. This one that I'm in right now, I don't have a actual price for this car, but I can make an educated guess. The performance pack that we're experiencing right now, with the 20-inch wheels, with the summer tires, the seats, the Magneride suspension, and the 34 extra foot-pounds of torque, is $5,000, which means that this car should be right around 67 grand. And honestly, not too bad of a price. But when you consider things like this only has 270-ish, which is really like 220 miles of range, it doesn't really make too much sense for that price. Whereas I would probably just go for just the normal Mach E or just the base Mach E GT, because it honestly feels exactly the same. I drove them back to back in San Francisco, and 34 extra foot-pounds of torque is really not that noticeable. The biggest thing I would say is the advantage with this Magneride suspension and the summer tires. So if you're really concerned about driving your Ford crossover like a race car, then I guess you could go for this performance pack. But just the normal GT is plenty. Plus you save 5 grand, keeps you closer to that $60,000 mark. BMW's i4 M50 starts around $67,000 as well. So you could have a fully spec'd Mach E GT performance pack for the price of a base i4 M50, but I would probably still go for the i4 M50 because it's everything I would want in an electric car. It's absolutely bonkers fast. It has a little bit more range, closer to the 300 mark. And well, besides the hideous front bumper, I think that it actually looks quite good as well. Now the looks on this Mach E, a little bit controversial. All of the boomers that had Mustangs in the 1970s say that it's an abomination, but honestly, I don't really mind that much. You can still have a normal Mustang, guys. Like, normal Mustangs still exist. This is just like a product, like it's a Mustang line. I don't know. I don't even want to get into that in this review, but that doesn't bother me at all about this Mach E GT. there are just some things that don't feel as advanced as they should anymore. When this car came out in 2020, 2021, whenever it was very early to the game, and it was a little bit of a revolutionary car. But now that there are so many other options on the market, just as of this year, it's a pretty competitive market at this point, and I don't know that the Mach E GT is able to keep up. So we'll have to see as this car ages and as they do a facelift and some updates to it. We'll have to see how it fits into the market. But this is a 2021 car, so it is a year old, and I mean, it feels it. So a little bit of a niche market car, someone that wants to go fast, look like a Mustang, have the practicality of a 5-seater SUV, and also be kind to the environment. So if that is you, then, well, Ford has made the perfect car. Again, just to reiterate, if I were to buy one, I would just go for the normal Mach E, because the normal Mach E is really a fine car, and it isn't that much slower. Alright guys, and that's going to wrap up the review here on this 2021 Mustang Mach E GT Performance. I hope you've enjoyed watching, and I'm looking forward to seeing the facelift of this Mach E, the update, because that'll really be the decider in if this is a good car or not. They've laid down the blueprint, they've got the real baseline figured out, but there are a couple of things that this Mach E could use and benefit from to really solidify it in this new EV market. All right, into park, and we'll do one more little walk around of this Mach E, and then that will end it for us today. Oh, actually, before we go, let's take a look in the frunk. That is one thing I really like about the Mach E, is that you get a frunk, because on some other electric cars, you open this and there's nothing here. So this is a pretty usable space here in the front of the Mach E that you could store extra things in. Cool. All right, guys. Well, thank you all so much for watching. We will be back soon with some more exciting cars and some really exciting content this summer. So subscribe if you haven't already. We'll be doing some really fun stuff very soon. But as for now, hope you enjoyed watching this Mach E GT. This has been Christopher Brower here with Daily Motor, and as always, drive on.